everyone. Thanks for joining in for the DORA Metrics webinar, How's and What's of DORA, powered by Typo. This is Kovid, your host. And with me today, we have two amazing speakers who are one of the front runners of bringing data-driven engineering to the engineering world, making dev teams even more impactful. Please welcome the metrics expert tonight, Mario and Joan. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Joan, for joining in. So, guys, both of them come with real and deep experience of educating and implementing engineering intelligence in various dev teams. Mario, who has had like 15 plus years of experience, he is coming to this webinar for the second time, and we'll see him more frequently coming in. He's a senior EM at Contentsquare. Hi, Mario.
Hi, Kovid. Hi, Joan. Very happy to be in the live panel again. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, pleasure. Then we have Joan, who comes with, again, 18 plus years of experience in Agile coaching, and he's an EM at New Relic. So he's managing dev teams at a great company. I can assure the audience that the door is fully packed with insights to share with us today and help us navigate the landscape of engineering metrics. And this time, this session is really special. Why it is special? Because today, the insights that the audience is going to learn, you guys are going to speak about, are coming directly from the engineering leaders who have been associated with Typo, who have encountered so many use cases that they come to Typo for understanding how to leverage those engineering metrics and tooling like Typo to actually bring that data-driven approach and drive efficiency. So it is going to be a real insight from the real world. But before we dive into these practical applications of DORA and engineering metrics, I wanted to do some ice breaking with Mario and Joan. So basically, we start with, usually we start with some different kind of questions about your personal life, about your hobbies and things. So I have come up with something, I would say, you would like to talk about, and that way we would also get to learn more about you. If you don't like the question, you don't have any option, you have to answer it. All right. So are you guys ready?
Ready.
Let's do it.
All right. All right. So I think we can start with Joan. Mario, I'll give you the second seat because you are here for the second time. Let the audience know Joan more now.
I like that.
Okay. So I think, Joan, the first thing that we do to start with is we usually want to know what are your hobbies, but this time I have thought about something which usually everyone wants to do in this world, but I don't know if people really want to talk about it. It's more about the financial freedom. So everyone is working, making money, and of course that's something that we need to live on. But everyone needs that financial freedom, and that has been a term quite like heard quite often a lot. So what do you think? What is your stage of financial freedom? And let's say you achieve it, uh, what would you do at that point, and why, of
Okay.
course?
I'm not at that point, to be honest, but um, if I was able to get to that point, what I would like to do. First, I think that I mean I would spend most of my time on the hobbies that I like, right? So I really like doing sports, so I will be very focused on sports. But on the other side, I also like this. Also, I like reading also books about philosophy, something like that. So there's kind of a part of my side that said that if I have all this freedom, maybe I will just take my time to just observe, rest, relax, and enjoying the doing. I'm not gonna say doing nothing because I will just meditating and thinking more introspective. So I think I will try to just chill, slow down, enjoy my hobbies. That I mean, usually is everything related with the sport. To be honest, like surfing, skiing, and going to the gym, etc. And apart from that, reading and just relax and chill. I think that I will
Oh,
enjoy
that's
that.
great. But I won't stop bugging you here. I would love to know, like, why would you want to do surfing? Why would you want to do skiing? What does it bring to you?
Wow. I think it's this kind of challenge, this kind of mastering the technique, the environment, trying to fight in order to improve and be better with yourself, actually. So trying to be your best day after day. And it kind of is nice, some of these sports, because sometimes it's like, wow, I'm doing very, very, very bad this time. But then it's, oh, I do it very, very good. So I think that you also have to live with this situation that there's good days. You have good days because bad days exist as well. So you have to also to find that balance.
Now that's interesting. Thank you so much.
Right.
Mario,
That's
the
what.
same question goes for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if as first to do that, I'm also far away. We have to leave Spain, Joan. I think financial freedom is not gonna happen. Jokes aside, I think I'll be writing. I love writing. People at work that have had been unfortunate enough to suffer me and suffer my walls of text, they know I like writing. So since I was a kid, reading and writing stories, so I think I would dedicate a good chunk of time to that. Hopefully, in some on some Caribbean beach. And if I achieve financial freedom at a point in my career where I've amassed enough experience, also I would love to share. I would love to help people with some coaching, with some yeah, I don't know, some experience and some lessons that I've learned, so that it can help them as well.
Perfect. Is there anything specific that writing brings to you? As I asked Joan also, like, why exactly would you want to do that? How does it help you? And what kind of writing specifically, if you have to talk about?
I would say between science fictions, but also mystery. I think writing. Well, you can write your own book, your own story, and then being able to communicate to people, being able to let them experience something that unique. I think it means a lot to me.
That's really nice. Great,
Thank you.
guys. I think both of you have something deep inside. And that's really encouraging and good hobbies to have for sure. All right. I think on that note, we can definitely get started and tell the audience what we have to offer here. So, before we jump onto the main section where we start talking about the engineering metrics and the use cases, the first thing I would like to understand from both of you, you both have been like flag bearers of engineering metrics in your teams. We definitely talked about it, but why do you think it is important? And I mean, there is an obvious answer to it, probably to both of you, but there are a lot of people out there who are seeking that motivation, seeking that understanding of how it can actually impact their teams, their careers. So, Joan, again, would you like to go first and tell us why is it important?
Sure, sure. I mean, for me, it's this sense of also of improvement as well. I mean, it seems that we want to be better sometimes, and we want to be better at what we are doing because we are professionals, right? How do you know that you're working better every time and you're improving? Sometimes for me, it's like if I don't have some kind of metrics, I have the feeling that I'm quite blind, right? So how can I put some light? How can I light also the progression or what the challenge that we are doing, if we are doing in a better way or not? So this helps me also to understand a little bit our improvement also, and also can try to get also some information about the environment that is surrounding us. Like it's kind of a complex problem, so we are dealing with different metrics. So they are correlated or not. We are trying to push in the same direction or not. I mean, it gives me some light, some way also to see if we're improving or not. So it's kind of it gives me some peace, I would say.
Perfect. But don't you think, Joan, almost all the engineering leaders, engineering managers out there have some way of measuring what teams are doing? Why we are here today is to explicitly highlight the importance of bringing in a more sophisticated structure when we talk about engineering metrics. So, what would you tell a person who is doing some level of measurement? Maybe they're just looking at their sprint activities and understanding how many story points they completed, or they're doing first level understanding of how their developers are completing the committed stories. But is that enough? Like, is that sophistication required in this structure, and how it is important if it is required?
I would say, from my point of view, that it's never enough. I mean, I usually like to challenge the status quo. So I would say to these people, like, be curious, try to understand if there's more things, or don't blindly trust what you used to do before, or what you hear that all the trends that people is doing. Try to understand also if what is your environment, there's any other things that you can incorporate, which are the things that you're more curious to know about. Try to get more information about this, because I'm pretty sure that there's plenty of more metrics that you can use, and you can get a lot of advantage of them.
Makes sense. Mario, do you have anything to add here?
I think Joan's answer was very spot on. We also had a few months back Clint here, who used to say, "I cannot fly blind," and that describes it pretty well. So to avoid repeating myself, I think I like to quote Peter Drucker, like, what gets measured gets managed. And in this case, I think if we want to do to do better, understand what we're doing, and if we are improving, we need to measure.
Makes sense. John, back to you. Anything specific, any framework, any set of metrics that you would always recommend to engineering teams who are getting started? Any kind of tip on that part?
Framework per se, I'm not a big fan of a box that you can just take it and use it. Because there's this quote, never remember the name of that guy, that said that for every complex problem, there's an answer that it's simple, clean, but wrong, right? So I would say it depends on. I mean, I usually start with a subset of things that I like to have to keep in mind, but then I can start adding more things, like the basic one, like throughput, cycle time, WIP, in order to understand how it's the system at that point, with a very small set of things, and then I start adding things if I think that they make sense or not, or maybe I add one and then remove. But I don't have any particular framework, to be honest, Kovid. I just have to
Makes
start
sense.
small.
No, it totally makes sense. I think every situation, every problem has its own nuances which needs to be understood, and based on that, one can actually apply something. It could be a part of some framework, it could not be. We need to decide on basis of the situation and the problem that we are dealing with. Totally makes sense. Mario, you have any opinion on that part? How
Very
should people
similar.
start?
You can see how we used to work together. I learned a great deal from Joan. I think less is more when you start, but there is a, I would say, a small subset of metrics that you cannot go wrong with. I mean, they stood the test of time. So I love cycle time. I love WIP. I love throughput. Just with those, there is so much depth once you start digging that you can already understand a great deal. And after that, it depends on the context, and it depends on what you're pursuing. So if you are interested in some X event, X outcome, perhaps you can look to understand which are the metrics that would be key indicators, lagging indicators to that, and see what is the team comfortable with measuring around that can give us information.
Makes sense. All right, guys. I think that's a decent start to handling engineering metrics and using them, leveraging them to bring more efficiency. Today, I have jotted down a few use cases, as I told you in the beginning, that there have been things that we have been discussing with our users in Typo, who come with different scenarios where they want to measure certain things to improve XYZ in their engineering teams. So let's see how many we can cover today. I have a lot. Of course, we can take it to the next session also. But to start with, the most prominent case is that we are dealing with is understanding the impact of improvement. So that's the first use case I wanted to discuss with you both. And impact of improvements, I detail out a scenario, and maybe then you can get a better understanding of what I want to discuss and what our users wanted to understand. So let's say there is a senior engineering leader who wants to show the executives that the organization is more efficient at releasing software now than organization was 2 years ago. How that efficiency has translated into lower cost, how that leader would actually use certain set of metrics to showcase that impact of improvements that have happened in the last 2 years. So what is your outlook on this situation? Which metrics should be used is what I wanted to discuss with you.
Mario, shoot.
Okay. All right. I think when I hear this, we're talking about efficiency, and this is a word that gets thrown around a lot lately. But before we delve into that, I think we need to define what is efficiency, right? So is it I don't know, shortening the cycle time? Is it reducing the number of bugs? Is it doing more features with the same team that you have today? So we have to define that. And once we do, and we can go in detail into what for me are some indicators of efficiency, and then hear from Joan as well. And after that, we have to compare, right? We have to measure and we have to compare, because if we're talking about a 2-year period, I would like to think that we're not in a situation where we have worked on a system to improve efficiency for 2 years, and then bang, we release that and we try to measure and compare with what we had 2 years ago. So many things change in an organization that you cannot really do that. So I suppose we're seeing incremental changes, maybe some bigger jumps here and there when we change things, when we learn information. But yeah, so the two things would be, let's define what is efficiency, and then let's measure. Very quickly, and then I'll give you, Jean, the opportunity to complete. For me, efficiency, I like to take the lean approach, which is do more with less. So it's more deployments, have more throughput. So more of the business impact that we want to see with less waste, right? So less handovers, less waiting times, less blockers, less defects, less of all the things that slow us down and reduce or subtract from the value that we're delivering to customers.
Makes sense. Joan, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I like the beginning that what Mario said. I mean, I think that the first thing to do here is define what is efficiency for you as well. Because I've been there in different companies that we said we will be more efficient, but what does it mean, right? Somebody put some kind of metrics there and here and there, but are we aligned on that? Are we clear with what is definition from all of us? Because there could be different people that see it in different ways because they have different lives inside the company. So I would say that the first thing is to have this definition of efficiency, try to see which are the your pain points, right? And then try to see which are these pain points, and then trying to attack them one after the other one. These kind of leverage points that people usually say that in the system thinking. And because once you have these, then you can try to work around them. And I think it's also key what Mario said, this kind of benchmarking, trying to compare you with you. And this is something that we were discussing with Mario as well, and another chat that we had. As I used to work for a company that we were doing software for hospitals, and we were creating some benchmark for different hospitals, because I'm saying that because we used to compare with all these benchmarks that I think Accelerate people also share with all of us. Like, this is how Meta, Amazon, and other companies are working. And I see some companies that they are trying to compare with them. But are you at that level? Are you sharing the same pains of Amazon, Meta, and etc.? I mean, could be, but it's not every time. Usually not. It's not the situation. So try to find which is the best benchmarks. Also try to find it better. You can easily compare from your side, from your past years. So it's kind of easy for you if you know which are the methods that you want to measure. So I will say that start with that. Try to compare with yourself. Try to see if you are better. So you are then moving as what you define as efficiency. So we can see then an improvement.
Totally makes sense. Do you have any example to share? Like Mario just touched on that surface, like it could be more deployments that have started happening. There could be less defects. less of handover, time wastage, all those things, right? So similarly, if there is an example in your mind where you would apply certain metrics, can you share that with us?
Yes, yes. I feel like I'm always going into the same, which is cycle time, but I think it is one of the best metrics that we have.
Okay.
So being able to reduce the cycle time, especially the higher quantiles, the higher percentiles, means a lot. Means that we as a team are able to focus on everything that we have committed to do. Every time we put something or we start working on something, there is a commitment. So it's not fair to say after a while, oh, this is no longer important because there's something more important, and we leave it hanging out there. Or this is blocked because we have to a dependency with this team and they cannot collaborate right now, so we don't care. No, that's not the correct. Or maybe this person is off, so nobody's picking up the work. It's teamwork, right? So cycle time is team cycle time. So when I see cycle time going down, especially higher percentiles, it means that we're getting better at focusing on our commitments, and we are also becoming a bit more predictable for the work we're doing. And I always remember this fun story. It didn't happen so long ago, but we were looking at the board, right? And you could see your typical columns in progress, waiting for review, waiting for validation, pipeline, etc., etc. And we were looking at some tickets that were over there, some pieces of work, and they were stuck. They were stuck for different reasons. So I asked the question like, who's responsible of this ticket? Oh, that guy that's assigned to it. And who's responsible of this one? Well, this other guy. No, it's the team. So you need team effort to move the work forward, to prevent these leakages, these wastes. So you're optimizing the system. And there are certain status, especially the waste statuses, that should be tending to zero. The status that you can automate, you should be tending to zero. So yeah, when you look at all those, you can say with certain frequency, maybe we're doing, whether we are delivering more or less value, that remains to be seen, because it's one thing to be efficient, it's very different to be effective. So you can be very efficient at doing a lot of very good stuff, but then nobody cares about, so you're not making any money out of it. But the first thing that we need to make sure is we optimize that, we reduce waste, and we are seeing workflow. And then you start getting to these times that these cycle times that are really surprising. And by the way, I fully agree with what Joan said. So we don't have to go to these benchmarks and trust them blindly. There's so many even in hospitals, where you would say like all hospitals would scale in a pretty similar way. Even then, Joan and his company, they did different benchmarks tailored to the size and the context. So we should be doing that for software companies as well. So the one benchmark that you can always do, or that you always use to compare, is with yourself. So first step is always, I'm getting better with my former self, or my former my team one month ago.
One important thing that I noticed in this use case, the user actually specifically talked about the metrics that which the engineering team itself should be looking at. Like we talked about cycle time, deployment frequency, handoff times, and reducing wastages. But also, the user mentions about telling it to the executives who might not exactly relate to some of these metrics and would not be able to actually make sense of it in terms of the business. So do you think in that situation, there would be specific things that you would like to explain to the executives and show specific metrics? Like one example comes to my mind is, like, instead of telling cycle time particularly, or any phase of the cycle time, like the review time has gotten better or the merge time has gotten better, can we just like talk about the overall epic cycle time, or maybe the lead cycle time for one story to another on an average, how it has improved? So is there any thought on that part, what we should be communicating to the executives?
Definitely. When we talk about cycle time, maybe the only exec that is interested in that might be the CTO. But for the rest of the execs, we need metrics that are a bit more tailored to them. Sorry, metrics are the same, but let's say the granularity at which we share them with them is a bit different. So as you say, for exec, it might be much more interesting to see what's a cycle time for a feature, right?
Yeah.
How many features can we ship? How likely are we to ship something that we said we are starting today? So if we can tell them we can put something in the hands of the customer with a 95% confidence in 1 week or 1 day, that's big. That's very big.
Makes sense. Joan, do you have anything to add on that point?
No, indeed. I mean, I 100% agree with Mario. I mean, and what you're saying also, Kovid, because from my experience, what I see is that usually engineering teams really focus on their improvements, trying to be every time better and better. And we are part of a whole, right? So at some point, are we improving something that is already working fine? I don't know, because we don't see the rest. So for me, it makes totally sense that maybe improving only engineering, we are part of a suboptimal optimization. So if you increase a little bit more the view, you start also considering collecting and being, as I said before, kind of curious about what's happening on the epic or feature level, whatever you want to call it. And maybe you get more information about all the whole process, because maybe you are slower because there's some issues on product or on design or on other stakeholders or some communication that it's making slowing you down. So if you realize about all this process and you understand that there's kind of a bottleneck that it's outside of the regular metrics that you are taking, like how fast you are deploying or something like that, maybe you improve all the flow on the epic or features level, so you are able to reduce some waste. You are able to be more focused on this feature, and at the end, maybe you have happy customers.
Yeah, makes sense. I think that would be one right way to explain also to the executives. Great. Guys, I think this point was pretty well explained by both of you. In association to this, I think there is one more use case that we have encountered, which is around the cost benefit analysis. Somehow it relates to the impact of improvements, but this is specifically talking about the cost benefit analysis. I'll explain the use case, and I think then you guys can comment on it. Yeah. If an executive would like to understand the cost benefit of an infrastructure development initiative, like anything that you have done at the infrastructure level, and continue to monitor it as it is being developed and rolled out, the initiative is either supposed to reduce the development cost for new products or provide more bandwidth for engineers to take on more projects. So, which metrics could provide such a capability to this executive? And like, I would like to understand that part in detail. I hope the question is clear. Do you guys want me to repeat it?
It is there.
Okay.
Mario, go ahead. The joke is in your ear, so you can start the conversation always, and I will follow you.
Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead with Mario then. Yeah.
Thank you, Joan. So when I hear this, to me, so reducing costs or freeing more time to do all the stuff is two sides of the same coin, right? Did I get this part right in the question? Yeah. Okay. So what the use case is, people want to understand whether this cost reduction or this saving of time is being materialized or not. So here, that's why I think it's very useful to have people in the company that can help around and ask the right questions when these initiatives are started. Because so if somebody came to me with this question, I would. So my first question to them would be, all right, so you're doing something, let's call it ABC, because probably you're expecting to see something. So this something you should have defined, and then you might be right that you're going to see that, or wrong, and you might see additional things. So, for example, if somebody is talking about infrastructure improvements, this is what this customer was asking about, right? So infrastructure improvements can be many things. But let's say that we're investing in, moving out of our old CI/CD system, embracing some more competitive solutions out there, so that we reduce the gap between the moment where the code is pushed to the master branch and when it's in production. So putting in the customer's hands earlier. I think that this is one way which we can see has this cost reduction being materialized. Economical cost, I won't go there because I think it's very straightforward. So if you're replacing technology A for technology B, you're doing some optimizations here and there, and you expect to see some cost reduction. That's very easy. You can see that in the financial sheet. What else? So we might look at other things like can we do more? So how we freed the engineers' time. So now that now we are doing more, and maybe we want to measure that with the deployment frequency. However, with the deployment frequency, it's always a bit tricky, right? Because first you need to know whether you have a bottleneck. And there is an engineer that wrote an article. I love it, Pavel Kreitzer from Hotjar. He explained how they improved the value of flow back at Hotjar because they had a bottleneck in their deployment pipeline, right? And they could see that because the article is out there, is very, very, very recommended. You could see that because they were hitting these bottlenecks. So they could see some consistent number of deployments per day and a queue, right? But perhaps when you change the technology and you have introduced these optimizations, you can do much more deployments per day. Perhaps you have a spike. So one day you have 20 deployments, but maybe the second day you have 2. So you have to keep this into account. If you really need to have something to deploy. So in this case, I would look for maximums, so maximum number of deployments in a given period, daily deployments in a given period, to understand if you have removed a constraint that existed or not. And that's enough. So you don't have to see that every day, this deployment frequency, because at the end of the day, unless you are like the high-performance elite teams in some benchmarks, you won't be having 20 deployments per day. Maybe you do some days, maybe you don't others.
Totally. Joan, do you have an example to share where any kind of infra improvement impacts the cost and defines the benefit of doing that?
Not a particular one, but when Mario was talking, I was relating it again with the topic that we were discussing at the beginning, right? So you should have to be clear about what are the things that you would like to improve at the beginning. So we're talking again, maybe as efficiency thing again, because you want to reduce something or increase the revenue or reduce the cost. You can try to do both of them or at the same time. You should know first what are the things that you would like to do. Why you are doing that? You are not doing that because there is a new technology, right? So you have first of all, you have to be clear with, I would say that you have to be very clear with what you want to improve. And then if you have this hypothesis, then you can check later on if this is happening or not. So you can then, as Mario was saying, also free up some time then that maybe people can use in order to investigate new things, etc. But again, I think that it's kind of understanding what are your problems that you are doing in order to be more efficient as well, more than solving an issue because you think that it's the way to go.
Makes sense. There is one example that I could remember from this discussion. Somebody on LinkedIn had posted about it. So they said, if you are doing some level of infra improvements, if you're getting rid of your tech debt, then one good metric to look at would be the first line of code that your new developers comes and pushes it. So the time taken for a developer to commit the first PR should reduce. Basically, that's how you can gauge that whether you have improved something or not. Of course, that was very situational and specific to one scenario, but I think this is also one place where we can see how fast people are able to push the code to production. If you have gotten rid of some level of debt or you have done some improvement, automatically those PRs would be getting pushed faster. So yeah, I think that example just struck me. So I just wanted to mention.
Yeah. this is a very good example, and I would tend to agree that in most of the cases, it's a good predictor. So it can tell you how big a repository is, how coupled is the code inside, how complicated or long are the methods and the different files. It can tell you how good is documentation, whether there is shared knowledge between your senior and non-senior engineers in that team or in other teams, your pipeline for deploying that to production, quality gates, anything that you could have that can give a quick onboarding and warranties to ship the software with confidence. It's all those would be great things to look for.
And also on top of that, something that we usually like to say is that every single line of code that you do that any user executes, it's waste till somebody executes it on production. So taking a little bit of the lean mindset here is, are you producing a lot of waste or not? So the less waste that you create, meaning that the more lines that you are doing are there in production and being executed by the users, the better as well.
Yeah, totally. Perfect, guys. I think we can move on to the next use case, and I think this is a big pain point for engineering managers, for product managers. But let's just stay specific to the engineering teams right now. And the pain is telling the executive, telling the product team, the business team, when exactly are we going to deliver? What's the feature delivery time? Predicting that. And honestly, in my career, I haven't seen a robust way, a very predictive way that would be very accurate. But still, there is something that I came across recently after talking to Mario, and I thought it would be great to bring up this point. So I'll highlight the use case, I'll explain it so that the audience also relates to the use case, and then you guys can continue on that point. So it's the case where the team needs to be more robust. They need a more robust way to predict the feature delivery time, considering the inherent uncertainties in individual tasks. There is no accurate way to do it, and a single point of estimate is likely to be very inaccurate. So a broad range might not be helpful for planning. So anything that you guys think would be helpful here, any methodology, any framework that would be helpful here, let's talk about that.
Good. You want me to start again, John?
No, I think I can start because come on, one for me. I can just.
Now Joan is the
No, I think that this is not a never-ending story because I like to say that by definition, estimation is inaccurate, right? Because otherwise, it's not an estimation. So sometimes we try to spend a lot of time trying to understand the problem, the issue, so we can do a better estimation. And what does a better estimation mean? Spending more time in order to understand better. So sometimes we end up I have the feeling that in my experience, we end up in a situation that I'm not sure if we are investing or wasting time in order to give a better planning. So one of the things that I think that we already started working with Mario, I think it was like 6 years ago, something like that. It was with this Monte Carlo model that I think that the name, what was the name? The name is coming from from this randomness thing there in the casinos.
Yeah.
But we will talk about Monte Carlo maybe later on in order to go deep on it. But what we were trying is moving out of this more deterministic estimation, like you said, okay, we're going to deliver this particular day. We were trying to move more to a more probabilistic forecasting way. Like understanding our current situation, we have 80% probabilities that we will deliver this thing, I don't know, in 2 months or before. So then you can also manage the risk there because it's like, okay, it's 80% probabilities, but 7% probabilities, what is? Well, maybe half months. So we can have this discussion also with different stakeholders. And also, because usually when we give estimations, we are very optimistic. And to be honest, from my experience, when you say an estimation, you are giving the average. Because it's more or less, I think that the worst scenario it's 4, better scenario is 2, so I don't know, 3 days, something like that. So we usually work on estimations and average, sorry. And you know that average are 50% of the time wrong. So it's it's a lot of putting a lot of pressure to an estimation. So
Makes sense.
for that point, this is when we started trying to move to this probabilistic estimation. That maybe, I don't know, Mario, if you want to go deep on that experiment that we did and we continue running in our
Go on,
different
go on.
companies that we work for.
But before we go deeper into that part, you mentioned Monte Carlo. Where is this name coming from? What is it about?
I think it comes from casino and this kind of randomness things, because at the end it's like, I mean, you collect all the data that you have and you roll the dice, sorry. You roll the dice like 1,000 of times and you collect all this information. So based on
Okay.
all this information, for instance, you can do it on the story points, you can do it in number of stories finished, on lead time, all this stuff. We will live on that. So at the end, you build a model based on your past data. So you can understand which are the probabilities that, based on the behavior that you had, if they're going to be repeated or not.
I think Mario also has done some research on that. Do you have something on that Monte
Yes,
Carlo
it's-
thing? Yeah.
Yeah. You want on the name or on the on the method?
Or both.
No, no.
It's actually good.
So yeah, I think the creator of the person that first documented this Monte Carlo probabilistic forecasting, he had an uncle that had some gambling issues, Stanislav Ulam, I think it was, and that's why he ended up choosing the name. But I like how I like much more not the gossip or the trivia, but the explanation Joan gave. I think it's much more accurate to
Yeah.
think about this probabilistic model because of the randomness in the dice throws. I love how Joan introduced this, by the way, moving from deterministic to probabilistic. Also, one thing he mentioned is that we normally give a scenario which is the average when we give estimates. I would adventure to say we are usually give the optimistic scenario, not even the average. And you can make this example, so you can ask the team about an estimation. And are you sure? Yes. And then after a while, ask them, okay, so if everything goes super smooth and super well, what's your estimation? It will be the same. It will have a 5% rate. So that's when you realize that there is at least 10 or 12 variables that you do know, you're aware of, that can each of them go wrong, and each of them can have an impact on others. And there's probably hundreds that you are not even aware of that can happen. There was this from Pro Kanban site, I think it was the plan likelihood. They had this simple estimator on the website. Now I think you have to register to see it, but you could simply add each of these variables that could have an impact in an estimation, and the likelihood of these happening or not happening. And you could see once you started adding 3-4 things, like somebody going on a I don't know, breaking a leg, somebody leaving the company, a new urgent thing coming up. You could see how your plan suddenly fell into pieces and didn't make any sense anymore. So I love Monte Carlo forecasts because of that, because they take a real scenario and just give you a window, a spectrum of opportunity, a spectrum of delivery dates and likelihoods. And then with that information, I think stakeholders can get a much better understanding of, first, what is a team going through, what's hidden between the day-to-day work, the context switch, the technical debt, the people issues that there might exist, and then when can I realistically wait for something that's important for me to be done. And that also forces you to do to make some decisions, right? Because if 10 things are important to you and you start 10 things in a team and you see when you're going to receive that, well, you won't like it. But then you realize that if you choose one single thing, maybe the plan looks much more optimistic now. So forces also stakeholders to make decisions on priorities. What else? There is a pitfall here, I think, that we did with John in our early days using that. So we loved it so much, and it turned out to be so accurate. And we can go afterwards to explain why this is accurate and why more and more teams should adopt it and stop wasting time on estimations and on other promises. But the mistake we did at that point was we started to trust it, and like it. So at some point, somebody handed us a project that was very urgent, very important. Joan introduced the numbers, and we said, okay, 3 weeks. And we said, I don't know what the CEO of the company, it's going to be 3 weeks. And with no explanation, right? So just the, I think we gave the 85% of likelihood for this being done. So what happened? Our manager came to us and told us, like, how is this possible? So what the hell, guys? This is very important. Why you have to say 3 weeks? So we sat down and explained, like, look, there is this, we have to do this work, and then APC, and then 1, 2, 3, and there is this problem, and there is this person that's away. And if you look at our throughput, this is the most likely date. And then he was like, oh, wow, of course it makes sense, but you should explain that, right? If you don't explain that to the stakeholder, it's going to be very awkward because it's going to generate mistrust.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Would you like to
Kovid,
add
so-
something?
No, I would like to add something on top of that. Before, I mean, because maybe using Monte Carlo at the beginning, people can be very frustrated because it's like, okay, a new framework, I have to learn something, etc. I would like just to encourage people, like, with this probabilistic mindset, and you can do a lot of things yet without Monte Carlo. Still, I mean, as the very beginning, as I said at the beginning, as baby steps. I mean, I'm gonna share also some examples that I use with most of the teams that I work with. Is like, if you have a good structure that we talk already with your features or epics, and you know how you are delivering them, there's a very easy. I mean, I was taking the throughput of the features that we were delivering per queue, and it turns out that in one queue we release 2 features, another one 3 features, and another one 5 features. So with this information, I already know that it's very unlikely that we deliver less than 2 features. And it's also very unlikely that we deliver more than 5. So with all this simple information, I already have something that it's very likely that they will deliver something between 2 and 5. I know that the size matter, and we can, in this case, it's something that we can discuss also, which is the right sizing, which is the expectation of the size. But only with doing this thing and not going very deep into Monte Carlo, that it's kind of a next level, with only this information, you can already start planning and you can give a lot of information there.
Makes sense. And I think that's a very good advice, because it's true. When you're involved with so many other things on the delivery and like getting things done, introducing a new framework that brings in another level of complexity to find out what's going to get on time or not might be a little inhibiting. So it's good that we start with a very simple probabilistic model, as you just explained, and then probably with better and more scaled projects, with more scaling of teams, we can bring in the complete Monte Carlo in place. Great, guys. I think that really helps at least bring and throw some light on how people should be approaching towards probabilistic timelines and not just being deterministic about it. There is another use case that I want to cover today, but it seems that we are already running short on time that way. So I would request, like, we start with the Q&A, and I'm sure someone is going to ask about that use case within the questions. And if not, I'll ask it as a question.
All right.
Okay, so the audience is waiting. I'll just take 2 minutes of break to have water, and then we'll start with the Q&A.
Kovid, I think we also, because this use case is very connected to Monte Carlo, and we just started scratching the surface, perhaps we can dedicate a session just to talk about it and all the things that we can do
totally
to help teams.
We can do that. Definitely, we can do that. All right. Let's break for the Q&A. 2 minutes break, and then we'll join in. All right, we are back, and we have a few questions already coming in. Oh, by the way, Clint says hi. Mario.
I saw that, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, let's start with the first question. That's coming from Saloni. What are the most important metrics to track if you want to control tech debt? Okay, interesting question. Like, if we are looking at tech debt and we want to keep it under control, what metrics should be focused on and what metrics we should be working on is the question. Mario, would you like to take it?
Sure, sure. I think there's a few metrics that that people regularly track, and that is the size of the pull request, for example. So if you have a lot of technical debt in the code, your code might be more convoluted and force you to do bigger pull requests. The defect rate as well, because more complicated code with more technical debt can inadvertently force you to introduce more bugs, etc., etc. So there is a bunch of those that people have traditionally used. Not long ago, I saw something that I loved, and I've been trying to introduce to my team with not a lot of success yet. So it's there; nobody has pushed back, but it hasn't had enough traction yet. But it is tracking the days since the last time you worked on technical debt or technical health, right? So if you see that consistently at zero, increasing, because we're tracking amount of days since the last time you did that, you have a problem. So you want to make sure that you are consistently dealing with technical debt, and you make sure that that is part of the way you work. If you see yourself also planning time for technical debt, you can do better. So you should be able to do that as part of your feature development, as part of your day-to-day work. You should be able to do voice scouting rules. So I see this, I know I have this is important, I'm going to go and fix it, and things should be able to wait.
Totally. I think we didn't touch upon that topic of capacity allocation, but there is one thing that I also have seen is that within your capacity allocation, the work that the teams are picking up, if the technical debt seems to be like normally between 15 to 20% of every sprint or every month or every quarter, whichever time frame you're looking at, then also we can keep things under control. So in general, a good number, a good benchmark would be your 15 to 20% of time, effort, allocation should be towards tech debt. We should be continually improving on that. So just adding to what Mario you said, Saloni, to answer your question, this could be a good metric to look at. Have a look at the broader picture of the capacity allocation, and then within that, 15 to 20% should be on the tech debt. Joan, do you have any opinion on that? Any thoughts? Any metrics that you think we should be looking at?
No, actually, I like very much what you said, Kovid. I mean, also in terms of, I think that tech debt is very important. You have to keep them in a good shape. So you have to pay your debt. So this means that and I like that you said this capacity allocation, because we usually with Mario, when we say capacity allocation, is pieces of work, not people around. So I think that having this kind of service dedicated to that, I think it's the best that you can do. Also, that you are paying your debts day after day and you're working on it, so you don't forget about it.
Totally. I think what I really like what Mario also mentioned about the size of the pull request. Of course, that can tell a lot of other things as well, but size of pull request in general, if it's large, definitely there is something going on, and it could be related to technical debt also. Great. Great question, Saloni. Thank you so much. I hope we answered it for you. Next question, guys. This comes from Madhurima. Hey Mario, I have a question. What kind of qualitative data we should collect alongside metrics to ensure better visibility and planning for engineering? I think a very interesting question. Like we always look at the objective things, the numbers and everything. But along with that, what qualitative data would help engineering teams, engineering managers to make better decisions when they're planning for their teams? I think, Mario, this has come to you specifically, so you can start.
Yeah, interesting. It's like if they knew me. It's a very good question, and I'm not sure I have a well-prepared answer for that. But I would like to connect this to tracking some form of well-being, and I wouldn't do that just for visibility and planning. That definitely can have an impact. I would do it for everything. But if you have your team consistently being unsatisfied with the type of work they're doing, feeling burned out, working overtime, not feeling that they have the time to do their best, forced to introduce technical debt, etc., etc. So this will, of course, you have metrics for this that are quantitative, but this would reflect in their well-being, in their engagement, in their motivation, in if they have the opportunity to work on things they love, that they can put their strengths and motivation in. So I think you should track that, because otherwise many things that might otherwise look like, oh, it's the perfect plan with the perfect delivery date, with the I don't know, might suddenly fall into pieces. Not because the way you use for building the plan and forecasting and dealing with the day-to-day of the team is wrong, but because of simply their well-being.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Mario, Joan, would you like to add?
On the qualitative round, maybe I will try to ask something like, are the goals clear for you? Maybe do you have any pain doing the planning? I don't know what else. Do you think that what you are delivering makes an impact? Something like that. But these are not the questions. I mean, don't take that question for granted. Like, these are the questions that you have to take to do or to ask. I'm taking these questions because I think that at some company that I work, they were kind of the pain points that some people were complaining. So I would say that when we talk about qualitative data, I would say, listen, people, try to understand what are the pain points that they have related to that particular topic and bring it into your data, to see how they are improving. So they were taking back the benchmarking thing again.
Makes sense. The next question, this comes from Aksh. Hey, Joan, my question is that we are dealing with delays in and out most of the time. It's because of cross-team dependencies and handovers. How can we track this and optimize for it?
Well, we're in front of a complex problem, so there's not a simple solution for that. So again, when this kind of what do you do with this kind of dependencies? Do you manage dependencies or do you break dependencies? So I will go first to go deep on that, to understand why do you have these dependencies? Because if you are managing dependencies, you will always have delays, to be honest. So first of all, I will try to see if you can break these dependencies. Breaking dependencies, there's a lot of things. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna make it up. Okay, maybe they are silly or not, but maybe you have a front end and a back end team doing these things together. Maybe you can mix them and have a cross-functional team, or not. Maybe you have a team that are more focused on a particular product and not another product, and they are dependency. They have dependencies, but maybe you can do the other team that is this product that they are working, or they are sharing some kind of technology. I would go first with that. If you cannot do this or this is not possible, I would say that with all the things that we were saying, all these models like understanding the right sizing, your epic level, forecasting, etc., this is something that you can visually see, and this is these kind of models that forecast your delivery, something that with just one click you can execute. So this is something that you can day after day track and manage it, and you can improve a little bit the pains that you're having on the dependency
Makes
level.
sense. Makes sense. Mario, you would like to add?
Just one thing, I think John's answer was spot on, but he once told me something that I think is perfect for this situation. Not if you just want to track it. So if you want to track it, you have ways to track waiting, handover, block time, review, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you want to improve it, to fix it, to prevent it, as you said, breaking the dependencies, I would, if you have the power, or at least if you have the influence, I would move those teams closer together. Because if you have teams that are part of a bit of a wider group that share OKRs, then suddenly, yes, you have dependencies, but these dependencies will more likely be collaborations. You're both working towards the same goal at the same time, because normally your OKRs have like these windows, 3 to 6 months, maybe even a bit less, depending on how you do them, right? So by moving the teams closer, you have them working on the same OKRs. And you probably have much more opportunities for touch points and synchronizations just naturally, right? Just as part of how the group works together or this part of the organization.
Makes sense. Perfect, guys. I think one last question we'll take. That's from Nisha. How do we make sure that there are not too many work in progress items for the developers? Okay.
There's
That's
always too many.
yeah, that's always the problem. But yes, let's answer it to our best. How we can get rid of that or improve upon that.
What one of the things that I used to, I mean, I try to. This is the best effort thing. But one of the things that I try to do is we were discussing about high level pieces of work, right? More epics and features. So what I'm trying to do with most of the teams is at the very beginning is we are working in one feature. So just laser focus on this feature. Just the thing that we are limiting the WIP on a feature level, you are already impacting on the WIP that developers get. Because if you start working in 10 features, that's even more complex to jungle around, trying to play some Tetris, etc. So I would say that at the beginning, start putting your focus on limiting the WIP on the epic and feature level. And then you will see if you
Okay.
can add more. But first, limiting this, I would say.
Makes sense. Mario?
Great. I think this is the way to go. If anything, I would add some. So if you want to put some numbers on it, there is an experiment we've been running for a while, and that is you probably want to have less items in progress, and not talking about feature, but just the gateway, small tasks or whatever.
Yeah.
Less than number of people in the team, number of engineers. Why? Because if you already have some number of tasks that is higher than the amount of people in the team, people are context switching, people are
Automatically.
multitasking, things are waiting, you're generating waste, you're doing it, you're bad at it. But if you have the same size of the same amount of tickets, the size of the team, it means that nobody is collaborating, or collaborations are very infrequent, and maybe just happens through pull requests. But you would want people to be helping each other, to be doing pair programming, to be having brainstorming sessions on how to do this change in the architecture, what happens with the design. So you probably want to keep that number always lower than the number of engineers.
Makes sense. I think that's the magic trick here. Like if you look at that metric, it would definitely make sense. And always the work in progress would be not too many. It would be limited, and people will be able to collaborate, get time for it. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. See, guys, we planned for more things to talk about, but unfortunately, we are not going to do that today. Fortunately, if Mario and Johan are available sometime this month again, we bring them back on this webinar and talk about in depth about Monte Carlo, talk about capacity utilization, and few more things that are already in the pipeline. So for today, that's our time. That's our time. But we'll definitely join for the next session. One thing before we leave, we always want you guys to share some parting advice with our audience. So again, I'll go with Joan first. Joan, any parting advice for the engineering managers and engineering leaders listening out here?
Leo, I think that I can finish with what I start at the beginning, like curiosity. I mean, be very curious. I like to say this kind of be like a beginner's mind. So put everything into a question and try to understand why all these things are happening. Don't take anything by granted. I mean, just be very, very open and be, I don't know, question everything.
Good piece of advice, I think. That's the first step towards making any kind of progress, because only when you explore, you understand what's out there to improve upon and do things. So totally makes sense. Mario?
To expand on that and to connect with the drain pipe, with the initial questions on framework, there's a lot of things out there. So don't jump on the first thing that somebody sells to you in terms of framework. it will take you some time to feel comfortable with what you see and to become an expert. And you'll do that by experimenting, as Joan said. So start small and build up from there.
Totally. Great, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. It was really nice talking to you. We would love to have you guys back, talk more about such things. But today, it's a goodbye. See you again. Thank you.
See you soon. Thank you.
See you. Bye.